So now we are going to look at scenario 3, okay, of merging or combining VCF files using BCF tools. So in this scenario, we are going to combine VCF files from non-overlapping samples, i.e. situations whereby we have, let's say, variant for sample 1 in one VCF file, variant for sample 2 in another VCF file, variant for sample 3 in another VCF file. Okay, so this can happen when you run variant calling, okay, sample by sample. So in that case, that means variant for one sample will be generated, another sample will be generated, and all these will be in separate files. So in some kinds of analysis, it's required to have all your samples in one single VCF file. So that means you need to have a multi-sample VCF file. So I'm going to show you how to combine these and get your multi-sample VCF file. Again, instructions for installing BCF tools can be found in the description box. So let's get back to the terminal, and then let's do a CD to get to our home directory. Okay, I'll even clear the screen first and I'll do it. So I'll just do CD, and then I'm going to create a working directory. All right, there's another project, so we need to get a working directory for it. So I'll just say mkdir, and I'll say merge underscore sample VCFs. I'll CD into it. Perfect. Now I'm going to get the example data. So let's get back to GitHub. So we will get to GitHub. Let's go to that page first. So this is the page that you get the example data. The link to this repo is in the description box. I repeat, the link to this repo is in the description box. So when you are here, I want you to get this file, samplevcfs.zip. That's what we need. So click it, and when you click it, you'll be sent to this page. Come to this side, come to the raw button, this one here, right click, and then go to copy link, and then copy the link. So right click the raw button, copy the link. Alternatively, you can click this button to download. Anyway, we will do it on a terminal once we have the link. So let's go to the terminal, and then let's get our data. So I'll say wget, and I'll supply it with the link to the file. So there's the link. So I'll execute the command to download. It shouldn't take much time. It's a small file. It's done. So if I do an ls, I'm going to see this here. Now let's clear the screen. Let's do an ls, and then let's unzip this file. So I'll say unzip, and I'll say sample vcfs.zip. So when I execute the command, I'm going to see this coming up. So now if I do an ls, I'll see a directory called sample VCF. So ls into sample VCFs, and we're going to find your files. So here we have sample 1, sample 2, sample 3. Good job. Now we can proceed. Now what we are going to do next is to index these files. It's always important to index. So I'll index them. So I'll say BCF tools, and I'll say sample VCF /S001. Okay, that's how it is. But then we have omitted a command, so I'm going to just repeat it again so that we can all do it. Okay, so what we are going to do is to index the VCF files. All right, so we are using BCF tools. So to index, I'll say BCF tools, and I'll say index, and I'll specify the file I want to index. So I'm starting with sample 1. So I'll say sample VCFs /S001.vcf.gz. So I'll execute the scripts. I'll do for 2. And by the way, when you index, nothing will show. So that means everything is okay. Now let's index for sample 2. So that will be VCF tools index sample VCFs /S002. Let's index this, and let's do for sample 3. So the same BCF tools index sample VCFs /S003. Perfect. Now, if the indexing has been done, when you do an ls into the directory, that is sample VCFs, we are going to find this also there. In addition to the VCF files, you will find files that have the extension .csi. These are the index files. Okay. Take note that with indexing, if you have several files, let's say tens, hundreds of VCF files, then entering the commands one by one will not be appropriate. So there are ways to do this. You can use the xarg utility, or you can write your own script that will take each of these files and then it will process them for you. Okay, so there are ways to go about it. That means you need to have knowledge in Linux. All right, so it's important. For those who want tutorials on Linux, you can also contact me. I organize one-on-one Linux tutorials as well. So you can contact me and then we can look at how to go about it. All right, so just take note of that. Alternatively, you can also use workflow managers like Nextflow, SnakeMake. I have tutorials on them as well. So just let me know if you have any challenge. Okay, now let's proceed. We have our index files, so we can proceed. Now we are merging these files, the 3 files. All right. So to merge VCF files, okay, from non-overlapping samples like this, we need this command. Let's go to the web browser. So we need the Bcftools Merge command, which is here. This one here. Let's open it here. Okay. And by the way, the link to this page is in the description box, the Bcftools manual page. All right. So here it tells you what you can use this command for. Okay. So you need to also check it out. All right. So you can merge basically. So a VCF file, non-overlapping, that means that each file should contain samples which should be or which should not be present in another VCF file. All right, so ideally that's what you should try to do. Okay, so now we can proceed. We will use a sample command here, but then there are variations depending on your case. Okay, so if some of these things you are having issues, just let me know. We can find out what your situation is and then we can work it out. Okay, now let's get back to the terminal. Nice. So we are going to now merge. So to merge, we will use Bcftools Merge. All right. So what I need to do is to say Bcftools Merge, and I will specify the files I want to merge. In this case, I am merging all the files. So I'll say sample vcf/star.vcf.gz. Again, there are about 3 different approaches to specify input files when using Bcftools Merge. All right, so I have a separate tutorial on Bcftools Merge that give all these approaches. In this tutorial, I'm giving just one approach. There are others as well, so take notes. Okay. So here I have this, and I'll say -oz, meaning I want a compressed file as my output. And I'll say -o, and I'll say all_samples.vcf.gz. This is going to be the output file. So now let's execute this command. Perfect. It has been done. So now if I do an ls, I'm going to find the file all_samples.vcf.gz. All right. So this is the merge file, which has the information we need. So we are going to do some validation. Okay. So we are going to start by looking at the samples. All right. Whether we have all the files in there. So I'll say Bcftools query, and I'll say -l, and I'll specify the merge file. So if I run this, I should see my 3 samples, which are these ones. So that's what I should see. Okay. Now let's do some further checks. What I want us to do is to check the number of variants for sample 1. And we are also going to count that number of variants in the merge one. That's going to help us. So I'll clear the screen. I'll do an ls. I'll ls also into sample VCF so that we have this file. So we will start with getting the number of variants for sample 1. So I'll say Bcftools view, and I'll say -c1 because I want the true variants. and then I will specify. So I'll say sample VCF slash s001.vcf.gz. I'll do a pipe and I'll say grep dash bin dash c single quotes caret hash single quotes. Now dash bin here, when using grep, that means that is the inverse. We are looking for lines that begin with this hash and we omit them. So what we are looking for ultimately are lines that do not start with the hash. That's what we are doing here, and we are counting. So that's what we have here. So let's execute this command, and we are going to get a number of variant for that sample, which is here. Now let's try to get that same number of variants for that same sample in the merged file, which is all samples of vcf.gz. Okay, we can also do that here. All right, so to do that, let's first index the bcf2. Let's first index the vcf. This may not need indexing, but let's just do it just in case. So I'll just say bcftools index all samples of vcf.gz. I'll just index it first. Then I'm going to get the number of variants for that sample in the merge one. So I'll say bcftools view-c1. And here, because this is a multi-sample VCF file and I want information for just this sample, I'll have to say -s and specify the sample name, the name in that VCF, which is S001. Then I can now specify the file. Then I bring my pipe and I'll say grep -bin-c single quotes caret hash single quotes. Now I'll run this command and I should get the same number, and that's what I see here. All right, so we should have the same. Okay, you can also try for sample 2 and sample 3. If it's sample 2, I just have to change this to sample 2, and then in the main one, which has all the samples, when I come here, I'll just make it sample 2. So that should also give us the same number. All right, so once we have this and they are the same, that means that everything is okay. Okay, so this is how we merge VCF files from non-overlapping sets. Okay, so that's what we have here. So this is the approach. And so for those who want the other approaches, just check the description box. There are links in the description box that you can use. You can also merge VCF files using GTK. So those tutorials are also available. I'll link all of them up in the description box. So check the description box for follow-up tutorials as well. So I'll see you in the next session.